What's up, Thrashers, and welcome back once again to the Thrash Maniac 99 YouTube channel, and I am back with yet another album review, and today I am talking about the latest offering from Finland's own Shadecrown, Zero. This also came out on July 25th, this time on Inverse Records, and yeah, I got curious to check this one out because they were described on the archives as melodic death doom, and I saw the bands they were compared to on the archives. The only ones were Insomnium and Swallow the Sun, two of the best bands Finland has to offer in terms of metal as a whole. And I thought to myself, okay, I might be down for something more somber, more dark, and foreboding. Well, with this album, there's only a shred of that. For the most part, I would call this more of just a melodic death metal album. Only a couple of songs capture a doomy vibe, but for the most part, these songs are mostly melodic death metal centric. We kick that off with The Art of Grieving, and it immediately unleashes into straight up Gothenburg worship. I'm talking bands like At the Gates, Arch Enemy, Soilwork, Dark Tranquillity, Old In Flames, that sound with the riffs, even the grooves. Vocally, the more screamier vocals kind of remind me of Tampa from At the Gates a little bit. But you do get some really killer death roars on this album too, and even occasionally across the board on the album you get clean vocals and female vocals on the more somber moments, which there are some somber melodies that show up here, but it's for the most part soaring melodies like classic melodic death metal. There's even some triplet chugs on this track and some double time, so you do get some aspect of classic death metal on some parts of this album. Lead work wise, mostly lead melodies, but when it does get down to shred, the guitarists do a really, really good job at shredding on the guitars. In fact, the track Fragile Chapters, you get some harmonized leads. Same with the track Gone. Those two songs have some really tasty lead harmonies. In a State of Agony, wow, my voice decided to go away. It builds up nicely, and it's for the most part a mid-tempo stomper, but you do get some double time and some gallops. But dare I say, the melodies here kind of remind me of 80s melodies. There's some 80s touches on this track, even a nice bass line that comes up, and saxophone. There's a couple songs like this in the track Tear Blind. Those two songs have some tasty saxophone parts. With Fragile Chapters, this one does bring in more tremolo riffs, tremolos on top of groove, but this is really where you start to get a lot of soaring melodies, which, man, they do nail them pretty damn well, and even lead melodies on the chorus. The track Gone, this is the first instance where you do get a little bit of doom, but it's very minimal on here. It starts off kind of somber with pianos and a doom groove and a somber bridge. Excuse me. But you do end up getting back to more of an up-tempo moment where it gallops along towards the end. And then we get to the title track where there's again some doom groove, but it's mostly a triplet chugathon at the start, and then it goes back to being more up-tempo standard melodic death metal. Under the Waves, beautiful acoustic and synth play. There are synths all across on this album, but they don't overpower everything else. In fact, they complement the vibe of this album quite well. But with Under the Waves, this was probably next to the song Tear Blind. These were the two songs that felt the most doom-laden. Under the Waves definitely has a much more somber quality than the previous tracks, and hell, there's even some Witherscape vibes. This almost sounds like if Witherscape were a death doom band rather than a progressive melodic death metal band. Again, some clean vocals come in. There's even some triplet chugs that show up here to kind of, again, add more of a death metal vibe. Inadequate, this one kind of goes back to the vibe of the first half of the album, where it's back to more up-tempo riffage and soaring melodies and chugs, but you do get a doomy lead section to kind of, again, bring back a little bit of the doom. And then Tearblind, probably the most doomy song on the entire album, like synths, saxophone, and acoustic guitars to start, and then the riff work, for the most part, is straight up death doom. It's sorrowful, it's somber. There's chugs again, but again, that kind of accents more of the death doom style. And then the closer, Repentance, chug and groove, and again, it goes back to like standard melodic death metal tropes with the soaring melodies, the riffs. But there's even a thrashy bit that shows up at the end. Like the fastest moment on the entire album comes towards the end of this track, where it does touch on like proper classic melodeath, like At the Gates and Dark Tranquility and Soilwork. Now, production-wise, it's pretty polished. Like, it's pretty clean, but the mix is great. Like, you can hear everything pretty damn well. Although it might have been a tad bit too polished. Like, I would have loved to have heard just a little layer of grit on this album. And I will say, probably my biggest criticism is, again, kind of like with a couple of albums this year, I felt a little bit misled. I was expecting there to be more of the death doom vibe of like A Swallow to Sun. Like, I was expecting something grand and like very sad sounding. You don't really get much of that on here. Like, again, you get a couple of songs that feel more like death doom, but for the most part, it's just a melodeath album. Is it done well? For the most part, yeah, this is some pretty solid stuff. Granted, it might get a little bit samey at times, like some songs might start sounding a little too similar, but song-wise, no bad song on here. So overall, I'm going to give this a 3.5. I think this was pretty good for what it was. Granted, I wish there could have been more doom and gloom on here, but aside from that, song-wise, it's good. Production-wise, like I said, was maybe a little too clean, but aside from that, like, this was some fun stuff. So I would say if you're into bands like mostly the Gothenburg stuff, like At the Gates, Dark Tranquility, Old in Flames, Soilwork, check this out. This is actually some pretty solid stuff. But of course, those are just my opinions. What did you guys think? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. But until next time, thank you for watching, keep your horns high, and your dreams wet.